Hey up everybody, welcome back to the Ardu Cycling YouTube channel, where today I am going to be previewing the Brussels Cycling Classic, which is a part of the Superclasico competition. Usually this race seems to end in a reduced bun sprint or a relatively large bun sprint. However, the weather may have a slight part to play in that. Currently it says it's going to be rather thundery, but as the race progresses it should become less and less thundery and a bit more stable. And also, the wind isn't crazy tomorrow, which means that the chances of a race splitting up due to some intense crosswinds is a little bit less likely. So the weather might not play a massive part, but it could actually play, a small part to play. So just bear that in mind when making your selections. But saying that, it will more than likely end in some kind of reduced sprint. You've got a lot of sprinters here. Nizzolo has just finished in second place in a race today behind Arnaud Delis. You've got Ackerman, who I'm not really overly confident with, but saying that he could certainly surprise me tomorrow. I don't know what it is about Ackerman, he just hasn't been able to execute a lot of results this year. I'm not quite sure what's going on there. Ballerini is coming off of a Giro d'Italia, so therefore I'm expecting him to be quite tired, but perhaps he can just, cobble together a result just for one day. But saying that, Quickstep do also have Ethan Vernon here, who is a 4-point rider. So he might be the rider that they're going for, especially considering his decent run of results at the Tour of Norway recently. Speaking of, you've also got Kristoff, who, if you think back to Scheldeples, where the conditions were not optimal, they were really quite bad. Kristoff won that race, so he shouldn't be too afraid of any kind of thundery conditions tomorrow. And I think that Kristoff is a very good pick, alongside Merlier, who is coming back after the first time after, I think, Paris-Roubaix was the last time that he raced. So Merlier's coming back. I'm not quite sure how his legs are because of that, but I think that he is probably the fastest sprinter in this race and therefore a very good choice. Sepman Mark recently finished 8th place in the Marcel Kink Classic, which is a pretty good result considering it ended in a sprint. And I think that he can provide a good attacking option for Nizzolo, or a rider who can really kind of hold it together for Nizzolo when it gets towards the finale. Viviani's looked fairly fast this year. I think his last race was like the Tour of Hungary where Jakobsen was, so obviously it's not too surprising that he lost there, but I think Viviani's a good choice. You've got Lotto Soudal, who come with a very attacking team. They don't bring Arnaud Delis, they're kind of pure sprinter at the moment, who do very well on a race like this. But you've got Florian Vermeersch and Tim Valens, who might be looking to try and animate the race a bit earlier and attacking a bit earlier, and therefore trying to make it not a sprint. So I think that if you're thinking that the conditions are going to play a big part, that Lotto Soudal riders would be the riders that you'd want to be picking. Danny Van Poppel, I think, is a great choice for 16 credits, because in Scheldeples again he finished very strongly there. He seems to be pretty good in the kind of temperamental conditions, a very fast sprinter, and is going to be the sprinter for Bora Hansgrohe. I think he's a great choice. Walscheid had a good string of form earlier this season, but then was unfortunately hit by a car during a training incident. So I'm not sure how he's going at the moment, but hopefully he can build back to the form that he was at earlier this season. Halvorsen blows a bit hot and cold, really. I think that from a kind of standpoint of security and consistency, I'd be more likely to pick Hugo Hofstetter, the winner of Trobro Leon, which was also quite a very aggressive race, very punchy, and I think that Hofstetter is going to be a great choice for most teams. You've got Jake Stewart as well, probably not as fast as Hofstetter, so I'd probably not be favouring Jake Stewart as much, but saying that, Stewart's also got a great shot of probably coming top 10 in this race, I'd say. Amari Capio is another option for Arkea. He's a fast sprinter. Whether Arkea might be trying to get multiple riders inside the top 10 for the UCI point battle. And Dan McClay is going to be like a third sprinter for them as well. Rasmus Tiller, what can he do? We haven't seen him racing in a while as well. Again, similar to Merlier since Roubaix. Whether he'll be leading out Halvorsen, I think that's probably the more likely scenario for that. Campenaerts is another attacker for Lotto Soudal. And then we're getting through to some riders who are kind of more like the domestiques, but I'll be picking out the sprinters as we go through. So you've got Rudy Barbier for Israel Premier Tech. He was very fast at the Tour of Hungary, because he was very close to beating Jakobsen on some occasions. He was always pretty much on his wheel. Caden Gross for 6 is a great value rider. He did really good at the Tour of Turkey, where he was beating, I think he beat Jaf Philipsen actually there. So Groves is a great one, and he's also fine at getting over any little lumps and bumps, and I think that Bike Exchange are fully around him for this race, so I think that Groves is a great choice for your team. But other than that, you've maybe got Stan Van Tlicht for Quick Step if the other sprinters in their team don't make it towards the finale. But other than him, you're now into the 4-point riders. You've got Maxime Deporter is quite fast, and I think he's been doing pretty well recently. Other than him, you have like maybe Kelland O'Brien, who did a really good performance at Dwars Vlaanderen, if you remember earlier this year. Luke Plapp is here for Ineos, of course coming off of a very good Tour of Norway as well. You've got Magnus Sheffield, who won a very wet edition of the Brabantse-Pijl, so he will be pretty good in any kind of stormy conditions. Ben Turner did well in that race as well, so he's another option. And then other than that, you go right to the bottom, you've got Ethan Vernon, who would be a good sprinter for you to pick as well. This is currently the team that I've got. It's 100 credits. It pretty much fulfills a lot of the sprinters that you can choose, and I think it's a pretty safe option. So let me know in the comments down below. Have I missed anyone? Who are you thinking is going to win this race, and who are you thinking of putting onto your teams? And all that is left to say is to keep safe out there, and I'll see you in the next video. Salut!